Today we're digging into a really fascinating chapter of Japanese history, the Kofun Period, also known as the Age of the Great Tombs.
So, what if the key to a nation's entire identity was buried deep in the ground? Imagine trying to piece together the story of a civilization that left behind no written records. Where would you even start? Well, for ancient Japan, the answer is literally underground, beneath these massive, mysterious mounds of earth.
Because for nearly 300 years, Japan's elite were obsessed with building these colossal tombs. And let me tell you, these were not just graves. They were massive statements of power, expressions of belief. Really, they were time capsules of a society that was right on the edge of becoming the Japan we recognize today. So what's the story they're trying to tell us?
Okay, to get our bearings, we need to know where this all fits in. The Kofun period, running from about 250 to 538 CE, is squeezed right in between two other huge eras. You've got the Yayoi period before it. That's when farming and metalworking came on the scene. And right after, you have the Asuka period, when Buddhism arrives. So this Kofun era, it's a super critical time of transition, a real turning point for Japan.
All right, first up, let's talk about the most iconic thing from this era, the burial mounds themselves. I mean, they're called Kofun, and that's literally what gives the period its name. So what secrets are they holding?
Yeah, these were not your average graves. We're talking about monumental earthworks, built exclusively for the ruling elite. Some were round, some were square, but the most famous ones, the ones you've probably seen pictures of, are shaped like a giant keyhole. And their size, I mean, just imagine, some of these could stretch for hundreds of meters. That's a massive project, right? It took a ton of resources and manpower, basically screaming to the world how powerful its owner was.
And what's really cool is you can actually see the whole society changing just by looking at how the tombs evolved over time. Early on, they were kind of simple. They just use a natural hill. But fast forward to the 400s and bam, they're building these gigantic mounds on flat ground, digging out moats around them. The amount of stuff they buried with the dead just exploded. And eventually, even people with lower status started building their own smaller mounds. You get these huge cemeteries popping up. It's a perfect snapshot of a society getting more complex and layered.
Okay, so what exactly did they put inside these incredible tombs? This is where it gets really interesting, because this is where we get our best clues about what daily life was actually like for them.
The absolute stars of the show here are these amazing terracotta figures called haniwa. The name literally means clay rings, which is kind of cool. They'd place them all over the mounds, like little offerings or maybe even spiritual bodyguards for the person buried inside.
Just look at this haniwa of a wild boar. It's so much more than just a piece of art. It's like a little piece of data frozen in time. These sculptures, they're one of our best sources, a direct window into the Kofun world. They show us what mattered to them, what their society was like, and even how they saw themselves.
And the variety is just incredible. You'll find haniwa that look like decorated horses, warriors decked out in full armor, well-dressed nobles, farmers, even dancers. It's almost like a silent 3D model of their entire society, just sitting there in clay, waiting for us to find it thousands of years later.
But it wasn't just about the haniwa. The Kofun period also gave us something called Sueki stoneware. Now, this was a major technological leap forward. It was made on a potter's wheel and fired in a special kiln at crazy high temperatures, up to 1200 degrees Celsius. That's basically the same as modern ceramics. It just goes to show how sophisticated their technology and craftsmanship really were.
Okay, so think about it. Building tombs this big, making pottery this advanced, that takes a ton of organization, a ton of power, which leads to the million-dollar question. Who was calling the shots?
The answer? The Yamato Clan. In the 5th century, from their home base in what's now the Kyoto, Nara, and Osaka area, this super powerful family of clans managed to take control of most of Japan's main islands. And get this, they're the ones who eventually become Japan's imperial family.
So how'd they pull it off? Well, it wasn't just about winning battles. Sure, they had the upper hand militarily, partly because they were big on using iron for tools and weapons, but their main strategy was actually way smarter. They preferred to make alliances, to bring other clans into their system. War was always the last resort. And that was just brilliant, right? Because you're turning your enemies into allies, building a stable base of power without having to fight all the time.
And this is the kind of society they built. You had the Uji at the top. These are the elite clans, the big families who backed the Yamato. In the middle, you had the B, who were basically professional groups of skilled workers. Think blacksmiths, scribes, papermakers. A lot of them are actually immigrants from China and Korea, bringing their skills with them. Then at the very bottom, you had slaves, who were often prisoners of war. This whole organized system was the engine that made the Kofun period run.
So we've got the power structure, we've got the social ladder, but what did these people actually believe? I mean, you don't go to all that trouble building giant tombs unless the afterlife is a really big deal to you. And this brings us to the spiritual heart of Kofun Japan.
This is the time when we really see the beginnings of Japan's native religion, Shinto. And the name itself is so elegant, it just translates to the way of the gods.
The central idea in Shinto is the belief in kami. Now, these aren't really gods like you might think of them in the West. They're more like spirits or divine energies that are just part of the world. A kami could be a powerful force of nature, like the sun or the wind, but it could also be a great person, like an emperor, or even a special rock or tree. They're literally everywhere.
Early on, worship was pretty simple. People would go to sacred places out in nature, like a forest or a mountain. But as time went on, clans started building dedicated shrines, often marked by that iconic torii gate you see all over Japan today. And here's a neat little detail. They didn't believe the kami lived in the shrines. They believed the kami would come to visit them there.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. We've got these massive tombs, a powerful clan taking over, a well-organized society, and this new faith taking root. So what's the big takeaway? What's the lasting legacy of the Kofun period?
When you boil it all down, the Kofun period is where the foundation for classical Japan was truly built. This is when the Yamato clan becomes the imperial house, and that's the same dynasty that's still around today. And Shinto solidifies itself as a core part of Japan's identity. It's a huge deal.
So what brought the era to a close? Well, it was the arrival of powerful new ideas from mainland Asia. The introduction of Buddhism and the adoption of a written language from China, these were game changers. They marked a huge shift and kicked off the next chapter in Japanese history, the Asuka period.
And that leaves us with a pretty incredible thought. The actions taken during this period, symbolized by these ancient tombs, laid the groundwork for what is now the oldest continuous monarchy in the entire world. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As we keep studying these amazing tombs, what other lessons about power, culture, and belief are still buried, just waiting for us to find them?